What you are saying is Legislative Assembly cannot exercise the power under the proviso to clause
Yes,
C,
yes,
clause 3
yes.
of Article
So what,
370.
then
That's
what,
not-
that's what, why they did, they converted the Legislative Assembly into the Constituent Assembly. That's what they did, Malaj. This is what is shocking. Most important, Malaj, in the context of what we've been arguing all of yesterday and today, is 147, PDF 85, sorry.
Amendment to the Constitution.
Yes. Malaj, an amendment of this Constitution shall be initiated only by the introduction of a bill for the purpose in the Legislative Assembly, and when the bill is passed in each house by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the total membership of that house, it shall be presented to the governor for his assent, and upon such assent being given to the bill, the Constitution shall stand amended in accordance with the terms of the bill. Provided that a bill providing for the abolition of the Legislative Council may be introduced in the Legislative Council and passed by it by a majority of the total membership of the Assembly and by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of the Assembly present and voting. Provided further that no bill or amendment, now this is important, provided further that no bill or amendment seeking to make any change in this section or the provisions of sections 3 and 5 or the provisions of the Constitution of India as applicable in relation to the state shall be introduced or moved in either house of the legislature. So, Malaj, you cannot amend (370) as it is made applicable through the constitutional order made applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So no legislature can even move a bill. This is what makes it permanent. This is exactly why it is permanent. It had to be temporary because at that time there was no Constituent Assembly. It was temporary, it had to be temporary, per force it was temporary. Even 3 cannot be amended. Section 3 cannot be amended.
But can the permanency of Article 370 be a consequence which follows from the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir?
No, it's made applicable to Jammu and Kashmir by an application order.
No, but you're saying that this provision,
Yes.
Article 147 of the J&K Constitution,
Yes.
makes Article 370 permanent. Can the permanency of the Indian
Yes,
Constitution...
because, Malaj, kindly see, the 370 was made applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir by an application order. 373, Malaj, kindly. Subclause 3 gives powers to the Constituent Assembly, no?
Those powers clearly
Those-
doesn't have.
That legislature doesn't have those powers. Country Malaj, what happens is when you impose Article 356, you took over the powers of the legislature. Under which power did they exercise that right?
Not of the Legislative Assembly.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying, Malaj.
Mr. Sibal,
But then how is proviso C will applicable?
Yeah.
how can, you are saying Article 147 gives the permanency to Article 370?
Because the Constituent Assembly, I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt you, Lord.
Now, can the Constitution of J&K give a permanency to Article 370 of the Constitution of India?
Exactly.
But that's all we are saying is that the Legislative Assembly does not have the power under 370 subclause 3. That's all that I'm saying, nothing more than that.
What you are saying is Legislative Assembly cannot exercise the power under the proviso to clause
Yes,
C,
yes,
clause 3
yes.
of Article
So what,
370.
then
That's
what,
not-
that's what, why they did, they converted the Legislative Assembly into the Constituent Assembly. That's what they did, Malaj. This is what is shocking.
The lighter side, the Parliament did it.
I'm sorry?
On the lighter side, the Parliament did it.
Yes. So Parliament converted itself into the Constituent Assembly of the state. I mean, it's unheard of. Yes, no means, but why show it? We'll show it. We'll demonstrate that. At the moment, all I'm saying is, Millers, you cannot exercise, the legislature cannot exercise powers to amend 373. Yes, even some other body takes over those powers, that only powers can be exercised, is the powers of the legislature, nothing more than that. The whole scheme of 356 is if you take over.
Parliament can do it or not.
Yeah, well, Parliament exercises the powers of the legislature under 356. It can't exercise any other power. And that's the scheme of 356, which I'll come to later. That's Bomai, Millers, now that's settled. You can't arrogate to yourself a power that the legislature doesn't have. That's why there's an interplay between the Constitution of India, the constitution orders applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir and 370 itself.
That's what you flagged in the beginning when you began your speech.
That's the issue.
Actually, Article 147, the second proviso to Section 147 of the J&K Constitution would seem to indicate that the provisions of the J&K Constitution are treated to be subordinate to the Indian Constitution. Which is why no amendment in the relationship of the Indian Constitution and its application to the state can be introduced in the state legislature. The state legislature cannot change that relationship.
Correct, but I'm not disputing that. It is the legislature cannot introduce a bill to that effect. And what's the procedure? Only under 370. It's only under 370.
But this is in that sense a subordinate instrument in its application to the relationship to the Constitution of India.
Let us kindly see, 1 second, kindly see, just 1 minute. Kindly see, the Constituent Assembly has now framed the Constitution. The Constituent Assembly has not exercised the power that it had, Millers, to abrogate 370. In that process, the Constituent Assembly, when drafting the Constitution, decided that nobody can change that status. The legislature cannot change that status. Now, whether Parliament on its own can change that status is a separate issue, but the legislature cannot change that status. That's the element of permanency as far as the legislature is concerned. Let me put it that way.
The legislature has no authority to change the relationship between.
That's correct.
That's what you're saying.
Change. Why? Because this is not a temporary provision. Come to that. That's clear, Manoj. The Legislative Assembly also can't touch the provisions that the state of Jammu and Kashmir and shall be an integral part of India. Section 3. It also can't touch extent of executive and legislative power of the state. Can't touch that. And it can't touch 370. So from the point of view of the Constituent Assembly, when the legislation was drafted and the Constitution was drafted, it was clear that this relationship is permanent.